The psychology of people who have no friends. Have you ever met one of them? They are the ghosts of our social world, the solitary figures who move through life in a state of profound and unnerving aloneness. They are the person who eats lunch alone at their desk, who spends their weekends in the quiet company of their own thoughts, who has a phone that never rings. They are a void in the great, frantic, and interconnected web of human sociability, a blank space where a network of friends, of confidants, of companions should be. You have likely looked at this person, the one with no friends, and you have felt a flicker of something, pity perhaps, or a kind of condescending superiority, a quiet and self-congratulatory thankfulness that at least I am not them. You see their solitude and you diagnose it with the easy, pre-packaged labels our culture provides. They're just awkward. They must be arrogant. They're a loner. They're a weirdo. You, a citizen of the great, bustling, and seemingly all-important kingdom of the social, cannot comprehend their exile. It feels like a failure, a surrender, a quiet and pathetic refusal to participate in the most fundamental and essential of all human games. But what if you are wrong? What if their solitude is not an absence, but a presence? What if their lack of friends is not a sign of their social failure, but of a profound and terrifying form of psychological integrity? What if they are not the ones who are broken, but are, in fact, the canaries in the coal mine of a deeply sick and inauthentic social world? The brutal and uncomfortable truth is that the person with no friends is not always a social leper. Sometimes they are a prophet. Sometimes they are a silent and solitary warrior of the soul. Their aloneness is not a sign of their inability to connect. It is a sign of their refusal to connect with the shallow, the performative, and the soul-crushing fictions of modern friendship. They are not at odds with connection. They are at odds with the cheap and counterfeit version of it that our world has come to celebrate. And in their quiet, defiant, and deeply misunderstood solitude lies a secret and powerful teaching for us all, a forgotten map that leads out of the noisy, crowded, and deeply lonely prison of the modern social self. The primal wound, the ghost in the social machine. To understand the psychology of the person with no friends, we must first understand that this is not a monolithic category. This is a vast and complex landscape of the human soul, and it is populated by many different kinds of inhabitants. But at the deepest level, we can make a fundamental distinction. There are those who have no friends because they are, for some reason, incapable of forming the bonds of connection. And there are those who have no friends because they have, on some deep and often unconscious level, chosen not to. It is this second category, the category of the voluntary exile, that holds the most profound and challenging of lessons for us. For many, the roots of their friendlessness lie in a deep and primal wound. They are the ignored child, the bullied child, the child who grew up in an environment of chaos, of neglect, of emotional barrenness. They learned from their earliest moments that the social world is not a safe and nurturing place. They learn that to be vulnerable is to be hurt, that to trust is to be betrayed, that to have a need is to be met with a terrifying and annihilating indifference. For this person, solitude is not a choice. It is a fortress. It is a carefully constructed and heavily guarded sanctuary, built to protect the fragile, wounded core of their own being from the perceived brutality of the external world. Their lack of friends is not a social deficit. It is a post-traumatic survival strategy. They have chosen the predictable and manageable pain of loneliness over the unpredictable and potentially devastating pain of human connection. This is the psychology of the ghost in the social machine. They move through the world with a kind of invisible shield around them. They may be polite, They may be functional, they may even be nice, but they are not truly there. Their true self is hidden, locked away in the high tower of their own inner world. To have a friend would be to lower the drawbridge, to invite another person into this sacred and heavily defended territory. And this is a risk their traumatized nervous system simply will not allow. Their aloneness is a scar, a testament to a battle they fought and lost a long, long time ago. The Nietzschean exile, the sickness of the social good. But there is another kind of friendless person, a person whose solitude comes not from a wound, but from a profound and terrifying strength. This is the person who is not afraid of the social world, but is, in a very real sense, disgusted by it. This is the independent mind, the free spirit, the person who has looked at the game of modern social life and has decided that it is a game that is not worth playing. This is the exile in the sense that the great philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche understood. For Nietzsche, society, with its emphasis on goodness, on agreeableness, on a gentle and inoffensive conformity, is a system designed by the weak to tame and to domesticate the strong. Modern friendship, from this perspective, is not a noble union of souls. It is a pact of mutual mediocrity. It is an unspoken agreement to not challenge each other, to not demand too much of each other, to affirm each other's comfortable illusions, to keep each other safely within the warm, predictable, and soul-crushing confines of the herd. The independent mind, the person with a spark of what Nietzsche would call the will to power, the drive to grow, to overcome, to become more than one is, finds this world to be a form of suffocation. They are not looking for friends who will comfort them. They are looking for enemies who will challenge them, for rivals who will sharpen them, for companions in a great and difficult ascent. And in a world of last men, a world that has invented happiness and wants nothing more than a life of quiet, comfortable, and meaningless ease, such companions are almost impossible to find. The solitude of this person is not a sign of their social failure. It is a sign of their profound and uncompromising standards. They have refused to trade the diamond of their own authentic becoming for the cheap and glittering rhinestones of social acceptance. They have chosen the lonely and difficult path of the eagle over the warm, crowded, and deeply pathetic path of the sheep. This person is often seen by the world as arrogant, as aloof, as someone who thinks they are better than everyone else. And in a sense, this is true. They do believe in a better, in a higher, more difficult and more noble form of human existence. Their aloneness is not a rejection of humanity. It is a profound and passionate love for a higher and as yet unrealized form of it. They are alone because they are a harbinger of a future that has not yet arrived. They are, in Nietzsche's famous and deeply misunderstood term, the Übermensch, the overman, and the chasm that separates them from the rest of humanity is a vast and unbridgeable one. Their friendlessness is the price of their greatness. The Jungian introvert, the guardian of the sacred inner world. Between the wounded ghost and the Nietzschean exile lies a third, and perhaps the most common type of the friendless person, the profound introvert, the person whose primary reality is their own inner world. This is the person that the great psychologist Carl Jung spent his life trying to understand and to champion. For the profound introvert, the external world, and especially the world of social interaction, is not their native element. It is a foreign and often exhausting environment. Their energy is not generated by social contact, it is consumed by it. Their truest and most vital life is lived in the vast, rich, and teeming landscape of their own psyche. Their relationship with their own thoughts, their own ideas, their own inner archetypal figures is often more real, more intimate, and more nourishing than any relationship they could ever have with an external person. This is not a pathology. It is a different and equally valid mode of being human. But in our relentlessly extroverted culture, a culture that has pathologized solitude and deified the social, the profound introvert is made to feel like a freak, a failure. They are constantly being told that they need to get out more, to be more social, to change their very nature. The person with no friends who is a profound introvert is often a person who has simply and quietly refused to betray themselves. They have refused to live an inauthentic, outward-facing life that is a violation of their own deepest nature. They have chosen the deep, quiet, and deeply nourishing reality of their own inner world over the shallow, noisy, and utterly draining reality of the collective's social games. Their solitude is not an emptiness, it is a profound and radical fullness. It is a sanctuary, a sacred space in which they can engage in their most important and most vital work, the work of the soul. They are the artists, the thinkers, the mystics, the ones who are engaged in a deep and lifelong conversation with the collective unconscious. To have a normal social life for this person would not just be a chore, it would be a form of spiritual suicide. It would be to abandon their sacred post as the guardian of the inner temple. Their lack of friends is not a sign that they are unlovable or incapable of connection. It is a sign that the kind of connection they crave, a deep, soulful, and often silent communion, is so rare in our modern world that to settle for anything less would be a betrayal of their own heart. They are not waiting for a friend, they are waiting for a fellow pilgrim, a person who can meet them not in the noisy marketplace of the persona, but in the deep, silent, and sacred cathedral of the self. And they would rather be alone forever than to desecrate that sacred space with a connection that is anything less than holy. The path of the sovereign solitary. The choice before the modern soul. What then can we learn from these silent, solitary, and deeply misunderstood figures? They are not just social outliers, they are a mirror. They are a profound and uncomfortable reflection of the deep and often desperate compromises that the rest of us have made. They show us the terrible price of our own belonging. They show us the parts of our own authentic selves that we have sacrificed on the altar of social acceptance. The path of the person with no friends, whether it is born of a wound, of a strength, or of a deep, introverted nature, is the path of the sovereign solitary. It is the path of the person who has, for whatever reason, been forced to find their own center, their own source of validation, their own meaning entirely within themselves. They have been forced to become their own best friend, their own primary companion, their own God. This is a path of immense and terrible difficulty. It is a path that is fraught with the dangers of loneliness, of bitterness, of a complete and total detachment from the human community. But it is also a path of immense and terrible power. It is the path that leads to the forging of a soul that is truly and unshakably its own. The great and uncomfortable challenge that the friendless person presents to us is this: have we chosen our friends, or have we simply accumulated them as a kind of human insulation against the terror of our own solitude? Are our relationships a source of genuine, soul-level connection, or are they a form of mutual distraction, a pleasant and sophisticated way of avoiding the difficult and essential work of our own becoming? Are we a member of a community, or are we simply a member of a herd? The person with no friends has been stripped of this comfortable illusion. They have been thrown, either by trauma or by temperament, into the cold, clear, and unforgiving waters of their own individual existence. They have been forced to answer the question that the rest of us spend our lives trying to avoid. If you strip away all of my social connections, All of my external validation, all of my roles and my relationships, what is left? The journey for the person who is trapped in a painful and unwanted friendlessness is the journey of transforming that solitude from a prison into a kingdom. It is the work of healing the primal wound, of befriending the inner world, of discovering that the source of all the love and all the validation they have been so desperately seeking is, and has always been, within them. And the journey for the rest of us, for the socially successful, for the ones with many friends, is to have the immense courage to ask ourselves if our connections are a form of freedom, or if they are, in fact, the beautiful gilded bars of our own comfortable and soul-crushing cage. For in the end, the ultimate measure of a human life is not how many people you know, but how well you know yourself. And that is a journey that must, at its very core, be taken alone.